today's class, we'll look into the format method once again. So we already have seen format method in the previous class. Can somebody tell me for what we have used format method?
The precision after point.
Okay, in case if there are so many numbers, okay, so decimal part is having so many letters. So in case if you just want it to have only 2 letters in the decimal part, then you can use this format method to do that. Okay, so the other functionality of the format method is to control the string. Okay, so say for example, this is how the method looks like. Okay, so the same method is used for different purposes. Okay, so the format method, the syntax is like this. So it is taking in 2 arguments. The first argument is the string itself, and the second argument is having certain characters over here, which is like the less than, greater than, and this cap symbol over here. So the less than symbol will left align the text that you have given here. The greater than symbol will right align the characters, the string that you have mentioned here, and the cap symbol will center align. Okay. Now, what is this 20 that I have listed out here? Okay, so 20 represents the number of spaces or the width that you need to consider to left align or right align or center align. Okay. So I hope everybody understood this. Is it clear? Like what are the arguments inside the format function? The arguments inside the format function are the text itself, which is a string. And then the second argument into the format function is the number of characters or the number of spaces you need to consider to left align, right and center align. And the less than symbol indicates that the text that you have mentioned in the format function should be left aligned and within this 20 characters width. Okay, so within this 20 spaces width, you need to left align, right align, and center align. Okay, so these are the 3 print functions wherein inside this I have used this format function. Okay, so now this I have given for, so that you can understand what exactly is meant by this format function. So herein we are considering 20 is the width. Okay, so that you are considering to actually align the text. So when I say left alignment, because the first printf statement says that less than 20, meaning that I want to align this text as into the left side. So it has aligned it onto the left side. Now coming to the next print statement, inside this print statement, I said greater than 20, wherein your interpreter understands that this greater than symbol means that it is right alignment. So it is right aligning it to the 20 width. Okay. So the next print is wherein I am saying cap of 20, wherein which means that I want to align the text in the center of this 20 spaces width. Okay. So it is center aligned. So I hope everybody understood what is format function. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So let us
ma'am.
let us move on into the next one. Okay. So let us try to understand what is meant by escape sequences. Before understanding, before looking into the definition of escape sequences, let us look into the scenario. Okay, so for example, I am saying print what is your name, and if you just see here, I have an apostrophe here. Okay, so which is actually a grammar inside your English text. I want to say what's your name. Okay, but according to the grammar of your Python, what it does is it looks into for the single quotes or double quotes or triple quotes. So here, since I gave the starting of the string is put in single quotes, it will search for a terminating single quote. The single quote here, it will consider it to be the end of the string. Okay, so what happens is like it will throw you a syntax error. So what's your name here will throw you a syntax error. So I just have shown you what is the output of this particular line, because why you have got the syntax error is because this after this apostrophe, there is still some more text over here. Okay, and there is no again apostrophe over here. In case if there is an apostrophe over here, it will say what is your name. Okay, that is again a valid syntax, but maybe the sentence formation is not correct, but it's a valid syntax according to the program. But since if you want this single quotes to appear. Okay, so if you want to make this single quote as part of your output, but not as part of the syntax of the programming language, you can do it by using the escape sequence. So everybody understood what is the scenario here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now coming to the definition of escape sequence. Okay, escape sequence is a combination of characters that is translated into another character. Okay, it's a combination of characters that is translated into another character. Now, for example, if I just wanted to print this apostrophe as part of the output, then I will just put a slash. Okay, so the slash here will say that this is not part of the programming syntax, but this should be printed in the output. Okay, and this slash over here will not be printed in your output. That is what is called as escaping the sequence. Okay, so the slash will not be printed in your output, but whatever appears after the slash will be there in your output. Okay, so this is what is called as escape sequence. And so when I have put a slash over here, your interpreter will understand that whatever comes after slash will be there in your output. It is not part of the programming syntax. It is part of what is will be printed like this. Okay, so what it will do is, since this apostrophe over here, this single quote over here is not is not preceded, this single quote here is not preceded by, so it will take this as part of the programming syntax and it will search for where this, it will find the quote. Okay, so here it is finding a single quote, but since there is a slash over here, it will not consider it to be the matching of this single quote. Okay, so it will just put it in the output. Okay, and since this single quote is not preceded with a slash, it will understand this to be the closing of this single quote, and whatever is in between, it will print it as an output. Okay, in the similar way, let us consider this example wherein I just want the output to appear like this, wherein I want double quotes. Okay, so I just want to say glad to meet you in double quotes. So to put this in double quotes, again double quotes is the programming syntax. Okay, so to bypass this programming syntax into the output syntax, what I have done is I have put a backslash over here. So wherein whenever this backslash appears, what your interpreter understands is whatever comes after it need to be put in the output. So in the similar way, so what I did, I have put the backslash double quote, which will be, this double quote will be printed on the output. Okay, so this backslash is just for your interpreter to understand this is an escape character. Okay, and in the similar way, because I want a double quote at the end of the text also, so I am putting a backslash and a double quote. So it will understand again that this double quote needs to be put in the output. So it will put it in the output. This is what is called as escape sequence, and this is how you put it in the coding, wherein I want to print this one. Okay, and this is where I want to print single quotes, and this is where I want to print double quotes, and this is an ASCII bell. Okay, and this is an ASCII backspace and line feed and all that. And this tab, okay, so which will be 8 columns spaces will be given in between the text. Okay, in between the words in the text. This vertical tab, and this is character with octal value. Okay, so the characters with the octal value will be put in like this. Okay, so wherein backslash and then an O and then the character, and hexadecimal values will be put as backslash X and then followed by the hexadecimal code. Okay, so these are all the escape sequences which you might have already studied in C programming. The same escape. Okay, right. Clear? To the escape sequences over here. So say I'm saying backslash, I'm saying slash. This is what I have shown you. So I'm saying slash n. Okay, so glad to meet you, and then I'm saying n. So what happens is glad to meet you, and then I'm saying and okay, so it is giving me the output in the next line. So again, I'm saying glad to meet you, and then I said I have a backslash t. So I'm putting a tab over here, which is 8 columns width, and then it is saying and okay. Some more examples. Okay, so here when you come here. So I am saying glad to meet you, and then I am saying I want this apostrophe. But the point over here is I am putting it in the next line. Okay. So I have put it in the next line. What happens is when I put it in the next line, so it will not consider. Everything should be in single line. I'm saying glad to meet you, and I said in the next line I am saying I am Sudha. Okay, so what happened here is I am writing this statement in two different lines. So this is not allowed. Okay, so to write in two different lines, you can use this slash over here, wherein your interpreter will understand that there is some more text there to be followed. Okay, so you can use this backslash like so. Okay, right. And the next one is here wherein I have given the hexadecimal code. So hexadecimal code. Okay, X stands for hexadecimal code. So after that I have given 3 and 0. Hexadecimal codes ante enti annadi I'll show you. They start 16 digits. Okay, so I'll show you all that hexadecimal codes also. Okay, so this 30 is converted to 16 power 1 into 3. Okay, plus 16 power 0 into 0. Okay, so this is how you convert the hexadecimal code into the decimal code. So wherein it will be 48. Okay, so this is the code in decimal. This decimal code, like when you look into the Unicode, so which will be 0. Okay, fine. So if you want to give the octal one, so you'll be giving it in this format. So again, the octal code will be get converted. So this is the decimal code, and this decimal code is this one when you look into the Unicode. Okay, so these are all the escape sequences. Okay, so coming to the numerical literals, I just wanted to give you a summary of the numerical literals. So all that we have seen in the previous slides, I just have summarized here. So just try to understand there is no limit for the length of integer literals apart from what can be stored in the available memory. Okay, so this is what I have discussed also. Okay, so there is no limit for the length of integer literals. So underscores are ignored for determining. Okay, so this is again very similar to the Java programming, wherein underscores are permitted in the literals. Even in Python, underscores are permitted. I'll show you the literals as well. Okay, so then again, we are having, they can be used to group digits for enhancing readability. Why we are using underscores? Okay, so this underscores connection is here. Okay, so the connection, why you're giving underscores inside your numerical values is that to enhance the readability. One underscore can occur between digits and after base specifiers like 0x and all that. Note that leading zeros in a non-zero decimal numbers are not allowed. Okay, so leading zeros in non-zero decimal numbers. Okay, so you cannot say 0, 9 and all that. Maybe for mathematical purpose, like when you do math, maybe 0, 9 is valid. Okay, so where 0 is not having any value, but in programming you can, because you start with hexadecimal, you start with 0. Octal also you start with 0. So 0 here has got a meaning inside your programming language. So you cannot use the 0 over here. Okay, right. So this is not permitted. You cannot say 0, 9 and all that. Okay, that's what this line says, that note that leading zeros in a non-zero decimal numbers are not allowed. If it is a 0, you can simply give a 0. But if it is non-zero decimal number, you cannot give a 0. Okay, and next rule is that, okay, these are some of the integers that you can represent. The first one is dec integer. Dec integer is nothing but the decimal integers. The decimal integers, the first thing, how you have to represent the literals. So I just gave you something like this. So which is non-zero digit. So you'll be having a non-zero digit. Okay, and then you will, so this is the one that I told you, like you cannot have a 0. In case if the number itself is a 0, then you can give 0, but if it is followed by some other number, then you cannot have a 0. Okay, so non-zero digit followed by an underscore. Okay, so you can have underscore and any of the digit. What is the digit is like numbers from 0 to 9. So you can have any number of underscores and any number of digits. That is what is the star mentioning over here. Okay, so star means that any number of underscores and any number of digits from 0 to 9 you can have after a non-zero digit. Okay, so say I'm having 9. So after that, I can have any number of underscores and any number of digits and all that. Okay, or we can have a 0. Okay, plus you can also have an underscore and a 0, which is again a star. So like I can say I have 8, then I can have any number of zeros followed by it. Okay, and then I can have an underscore and also any number of zeros followed by it. Okay, so that is how you represent a decimal integer. Now coming to the binary integer. Okay, so coming to the binary integer, so it will be starting with a 0 and then followed by a lowercase b or uppercase b and then you have an underscore and then some bin digits. What are the bin digits? It is 0 and 1. Okay, so the bin digits are 0 and 1. And next coming to the octal number, so I'm having a 0 and then followed by a lowercase o or uppercase O and then an underscore and then an octal digit. Octal digits will fall between 0 and 7. Okay, so the numbers in the octal are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, any of the digits. You cannot have you cannot say octal low, you cannot say 0, O and then you cannot say 8. Okay, so this is wrong. Syntactically it is wrong because there is no 8 in the octal digits. So you cannot include an 8 in the octal literal. Okay, right. You can have 7, 7, 7 and all that you can have, but 8 is not permitted. So that's what I have given here, what is meant by an octal digit. Now coming to hexadecimal integers. So starting you will be having a 0 and then followed by an X or a capital X or a lower X. Capital X and lower X indicates that it is an hex integer, hexadecimal integer. And then you can have an underscore and then followed by the hex digits. The hex digits are from digits which is from 0 to 9. And then it can be lowercase a to f or uppercase a to f. Lower a represents, okay, so a represents 10. Okay, so a represents 10 and then followed by b, c and all that. So till f. Okay, so what does f represent here? F represents 15. Okay, f represents 15. So a represents 10, b represents 11, c represents 12. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so all that. So you will be having numbers, and this A you can write it in uppercase or you can write it in lowercase. Okay, so B stands for 11. Okay, C stands for 12, and D stands for 13, and E stands for 14, and all that. Okay, the conversion of hexadecimal to decimal I already have shown you. Okay, so this is how your hexadecimal integers will look like. So is it understood, everybody? So you can, integer literals are described by the following lexical definitions. So you can have decimal integers, you can have octal integers, you can have hexadecimal integers, and also you can have binary integers. Okay, right. Now coming to the first literal, I am just showing you the valid literals. So first coming to the literal A. Okay, so A variable is having this literal. So as I said, like you can have underscores inside your literals. This is valid. Okay. So in Java also this is valid. Underscores. Now what happens is the interpreter, your interpreter will ignore this underscores. Why you are giving underscores inside your literals is that for you to easily understood. Can you put a comma inside your literals? You cannot put. Okay, so you cannot put commas, but instead of commas, you can put an underscore. Underscore will actually increase the readability of the code. Okay, coming to the next one. So the next one is a literal something like this: 2147483647. As I said, there is no limit. Like it is a dynamic programming language. The internal, based on the literal that you give, internally the data type will be assigned. Now this is again another decimal number wherein I didn't use any underscore. Okay, right. The next one is an octal code where I said it should be starting with a 0 and followed by lowercase o or uppercase. An octal number. So conversion of this octal number, like it is Okay, so you'll be taking 8 power 0 into 7 and 8 power 1 into 7 and 8 power 2 into 7. So likewise, you'll be doing the sum and you'll get 127. Okay, so this is a binary integer wherein I said it should be starting with 0 and b. When there is a 0, your compiler will understand, your interpreter will understand that it is a non-decimal number. So based on the next digit, it will get confirmation whether it is octal or hexadecimal or binary. Okay, so since it is binary digits are 0 and 1 only. So all these are the binary digits which will be converted into your decimal and then be put in the output. This is a simple integer number. I just wanted to show you like even this is possible. Okay, right. Now this is a very long integer. Okay, so very big integer value, and even this will be taken inside your program. But wherein when you do your C programming and all that, you cannot assign long integers to your integers. Okay, so you'll get an error. But that is not the case in this programming language. You can give very long integers because it is implementation dependent. Now coming to G is equal to, I'm saying this is again an octal number, wherein I'm saying octal 377 and all. Now I'm saying this is an hexadecimal number. When it sees a 0, it will search for whether it is having an X or O or B. So there is an X over here, and these are all the digits in the hexadecimal. So I'm just giving a dead beef over here, so which is a valid hexadecimal number. Okay, right. And coming to I, which is a simple integer numerical literal, which is having some underscores. As I told you, like your interpreter will ignore these underscores. Okay, you are using this underscores only to increase the readability. Okay, in case if it is a very long integer and you just are confused with how many zeros you are giving, and you want to be sure with the number of zeros or number of digits, so you can use this underscores for actually improving the readability of the code. You can also include these underscores in any of the literals, numerical literals, say it oct or hex or binary or whatever, decimal, whatever. So I just have included it in the binary literal as well. So when I have printed this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, which are the variables, so I got these answers. So just compare your input and then the output. Okay, so here there is an underscore, but inside the output, there is no underscore. I'll execute all these programs and show it to you, but just understand it so that when I show you, you can just connect it. Okay, so now there are no underscores, it just prints the number. And this is an octal number converted to decimal, and this is binary converted to decimal, and this is a decimal on its whole, and this is a very long integer, and this is again octal converted to decimal, and this is hex converted to decimal, and this is simply an integer because I don't have a leading 0 and something else. So this is an integer value wherein the underscores are ignored. Last one is a binary literal. This binary literal is having a 0 and B and decimal format and is given to you as an output, which is 229. Everybody clears in the decimal format, in the octal format, in the binary format, and in the hexadecimal format. Yes, girls, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. We'll see the summary of the floating literals. Now coming to the summary of the floating literals are described like this. Okay, so you have the digit part, and then you are having this particular dot over here, which is the exponential float. Okay, and you can have how many ever underscores over here, and then the digit is 0 to 9 and all that. Then after the dot, whatever you have, you call that as a fraction. And you can also include an exponential, which is represented with an lowercase e or uppercase v, lowercase e or uppercase e, which is followed by a plus or minus and then the digit part. Okay, so the digit part is like 0 to 9. Okay, the allowed range of floating point literals is again implementation dependent. Okay, so there is no range, like it's not like in C programming, we say like for integers it is 2 bytes. And then for float, we say 4 bytes, and for character we say only 1 byte and all that. That kind of fixed sizes for integers and floats and all is not there in Python. Okay, so the integral and the exponential parts are always interpreted using radix 10. Okay, so that is decimal number. Okay, right. Now coming to this particular case, like we are saying a is equal to 3.19, so which is the value of pi. Okay, so I said a is equal to 3.14. So when I print it, I'll get 3.14. Okay, so I'm saying b is equal to 10 dot. Okay, so even this is valid. Okay, so you can simply say 10 dot, and even if you don't give anything in this particular exponential part, nothing will happen. This is a valid syntax. I just wanted to tell you that this is a valid syntax. So I'll get 10.0. And coming to C, I said C is equal to 0.001. Even if you don't give any integral part, it is a valid syntax. It will take 0 in it. Okay. Next, coming to, I said 1E100. Okay, I didn't put a plus over here, plus or minus over here. Okay, so it will just take that it is a plus. Okay, so next I'm saying 3.14 E minus 10. So it will say E minus 10. And next is I'm saying 0 E0, any number to the 0.14, and I have put an underscore over here. So you can also include some underscores, okay, to represent the floating point numbers, wherein this will be ignored by your interpreter. Okay, so next is H. Okay, so H I am saying 077, and I'm saying E. Okay, so 0, and then I'm saying 10. Okay, so which will take it as 10 power 10. Okay, and when I print all these numbers, okay, so this is how it will give me. So the first one is 3.14, then it is giving me a 10.0. It will add a 0. Okay, even if you don't give. Then this is 0.001, and this is 1E plus 100, wherein even if you didn't give plus, it is taking plus. Next is just it is giving. This is an into, it will give 0.0, and then this is ignoring of underscore, and this is the calculation. Okay, so it has done some calculation and it has given me. Okay, right. And so this is how the floating point literals are can be given. Next is the summary of imaginary literals. Okay, so the sum of the imaginary literals. So you have imaginary or the complex numbers that I talked about. You have to give j, lowercase j or uppercase j. You cannot give other than j. You cannot give any other character. Okay, so you can just give j. And I'm saying 3.14 j. Okay, so then I'm saying 10 point j. Okay, so then I'm saying 10 j. Then I'm saying 0.001 j. Okay, so then I'm saying 1g. Okay, 100j, and I'm saying these are all the representations of your complex number or imaginary literals. Okay, so you can also do this. Okay, and all these are the outputs that you get from this. Okay, right. And the next topic is variables and identifiers. So we just have finished the string literals, numerical literals, and then we are moving on towards the variables and the identifiers. In the literals, we'll look into what is meant by a variable. Okay, so a variable in a programming language means that its value can vary. Okay, so what does it mean by its value can vary? We'll look at before looking at, let us look into another definition of the variable. Variables are reserved memory locations that store a value. Okay, so it stores a value, and you can store any piece of information in a variable. And variable is part of a computer memory where information is stored, and every variable is given a name to easily identify it. Okay, so it is a named memory location. You can say that in case if I'm saying a is equal to 10. Okay, so say I'm saying a is equal to 10, it is a named memory location. So again here the logical and physical addresses will be there. This is the logical one. So through your code, like you're naming this location and you're saying 10. Okay, so what happens is A is this named memory location. So wherein whenever you want A, this 10 will be retrieved from the memory. So identifiers are examples of variables. Okay, so this A that I have talked about is called as a variable, and identifiers are how these variables look like. Okay, so this is A. A is an identifier, which is an example of variable. Identifiers are names given to variables. So what is the name? How you can give name to the variable? So that is what is called as identifier. Identifiers are names given to variables, not only to the variables. You give names to functions, you give names to classes, and you give names to modules, you give names to objects. Okay. So you give different names to different parts of the programming language. So the names that you give have to follow different syntax. Okay, so there should be a named convention that you need to follow, like rules that you need to follow while giving names to the identifier. So let us look into how to name an identifier. Okay, so to name an identifier, the first character of an identifier must be an underscore. It can be an underscore or it can be any letter, okay, from A to Z, which is an uppercase or lowercase letter. So both are permitted. Okay, so uppercase letters or lowercase letters or an underscore, anything is permitted while giving a name to an identifier, while giving a name to a variable, which is an identifier. The rest of the identifiers, what I said, this is the first character. So you need to follow the rule for the first character. Now coming to the rest of the identifiers, okay, so you can have digits from 0 to 9. But coming to the first character, you cannot have numbers from 0 to 9. But the coming to the second character, you can have digits. Also, you can have letters from A to Z, and also they can be like uppercase and lowercase letters, and all that can happen. Okay, right. Identifier names are case sensitive. So meaning that my where and my wherein here the M is capital letter and here M is lowercase. They are considered to be two different identifiers, and it is a very bad programming language to have two different variables like this. Okay, so it is always good that you choose relevant variable name for the concept application that you are developing. And there is a different naming convention for the class names and method names. Generally, we start the function names with lowercase letters, and we start the we start the class names with the uppercase letters. It is not mandatory to do it that way, but why we do that way is to make your code readable. Okay, so whenever you say something like I'm saying the class banking. Okay, so if you have a class called as banking, so I start with uppercase letter. Okay, so I say that okay, letter will indicate that it is the name of the class. But when I start some method, okay, so if I have inside my program, then I will start that method with a lowercase letter. That is, I mean, you can say adapted programming convention across the programmers, which is not mandatory. And the next one is punctuation characters. The punctuation characters like at the rate, dollar, and percentage and spaces. All these are not allowed within the identifiers. You cannot say my space variable and all that. Okay. Identifier name cannot start with the numbers. You cannot start identifier names with the numbers. So understanding these rules of how to name an identifier, let us now take some examples of identifiers which are valid and not valid. Now, some wherein this is valid. So I said there can be an underscore inside your character, inside your identifier. So you can write like this is valid. I can have a numerical value, but it should not be the first letter of your identifier. So this is valid. Capital letter A, yes, of course it's valid because it's permitted. And number underscore 1, yes, all uppercase letters, yes, it's valid. Now coming to the invalid identifiers, I cannot have a 1. Okay, so the digits I cannot have. So this is not valid. And I have an hyphen over here rather than an underscore. I am having an hyphen. So this is not valid. So I'm putting some percentage in front of the identifier, not valid. Okay, so I have put a space in between this basic and salary. So this is not valid. And I have put a hash in between this HRA. It's not valid. So these are the list of identifiers which are valid and not valid. Invalid identifier. Now let us look into some of the very important points pertaining to Python. Okay, so what is Python? Python is case sensitive, like your C programming. Even your C programming is case sensitive, Java is also case sensitive. In the similar way, your Python is also case sensitive. And I'm saying Python is dynamically typed. Why is dynamically, what is meant by dynamically typed? Dynamically typed is the concept which I discussed when I discussed about features of Python, which is dynamic. The variable, you needn't give the data type of the variable. It is determined during runtime. So which we have already discussed many times. So the next is Python is purely object-oriented language. This is an interview question. Okay, so is Python purely object-oriented programming language? This is an interview question. Okay, so this is an interview question. Okay, so yes, Python is purely object-oriented programming language as it refers to everything as an object. Okay, so everything in Python is a first-class citizen, meaning that it is an object. In object-oriented programming language, everything needs to be an object, including numbers and strings. Okay, so purely means that. Okay, now to give you an example, Java is not a pure object-oriented language. Why it is not pure is because when I say integer, okay, so the int over here is not object in Java, but in Python, the data types are also objects. Okay, so everything that we have in Python are objects. That's why Python is called as purely object-oriented language. Okay, is the concept clear, everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Clear, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, into more